Hey folks, MasakoX here. Welcome back to the story, which was based around the supposed theory that Shenron could be powerful enough to transform a person's physiology enough so that they may become a whole new type of being. For example, in this timeline, Krillin took the plunge and became a Saiyan, all down to his sadness surrounding Goku becoming stronger than everybody, outpacing the entire rank of the Dragon Team, and they didn't know how. However, he hadn't intended to become a Saiyan. All he asked upon the dragon was just to be like Goku, in regards to his overall potential and improvement, and thusly took Krillin's request literally. And so, we got the Krill dog becoming a Krill monkey. Today's video is sponsored by MasakoX. MasakoX is a subscription box with a focus on providing you the best, most accurate, and most traditional way to experience what Japan has to offer when it comes to its gastronomic delights. Whether it be something special like delicate confectionery, perfectly matched tea to have with your snacks, and even the included kitchenware that you get with every box, each perfectly themed with your selection. This month's theme is to welcome in spring and the traditional celebrations for said season with the classic Sakura. The joy of Hanami can be yours with the treats MasakoX has for you, including Sakura-flavored jellies, cookies, and of course green tea, to gently nudge you out of winter and into the uplifting springtide. All of it explained to you in a deep, comprehensive guide that will help you through your culinary adventure. You can go to my second channel up on the lookout to see Philly and I explored this month's box in more detail. Or if you're already intrigued, you can get $5 off your first MasakoX box by using the code MasakoX at checkout, and of course the link in the description. Be sure to do this before February the 28th to get your Sakura-themed delectations. I do hope you give this a look, and thanks once again to MasakoX for sponsoring this video. Cheers! In the last part, Android 18, known as Lazuli here, had been the one to come back to the past instead of future Trunks to deliver the message of a robotic menace that would doom humanity. No, it wasn't herself or Android 17, known as Lapis. It was their own preceding model. 16's core program had gone doolally in her timeline, and not only wound up off in Goku, but it kept on going, so that every single living being on the planet that got in its way wound up no longer existing. They had no idea though that things could easily go in a different direction, with many more droids perhaps that could easily mess things up and put Lazuli's plan into calamity, or be completely overblown or rewritten. That's the thing about the multiverse, you see. It can sometimes be a female dog. As part of this preparation, Krillin's training with King Kai had led to a more refined version of Kaioken being developed, off of the back of Super Saiyan to boot, and its power management. And many of the Dragon Team were deployed to said world to get the basics down in time for the arrival of potential androids, whoever it was. When they would arrive, Krillin felt a little disappointed. 19 and 20 had arrived on the scene, and he had gotten so strong, he didn't even need to go Super Saiyan to give 19 some trouble. But that all changed when the clown bot outstretched its arm and began to drain Krillin's energy. With nobody nearby, can our Saiyan dog get out of this tricky situation? The scene looked bleak. Krillin was feeling very tired. 19's grip was far too strong, and felt as if it were mechanically locked in position. The only way you could in theory free yourself right now from its clutches was essentially to cleave the hand right off of its arm. Wait, that was it! With one last surge of strength, Krillin unleashed a destructive disc with one hand, and a miniature solar flare with the other hand. It was tricky, but it did the job. It caught 19's attention, and also cut straight through the automaton's wrist, freeing Krillin from its grip, and allowing the little guy to get some distance between him and his target. When the light, which again wasn't quite as bright as usual since only one hand was used, returned to normal brightness, 19 looked down, and saw it was missing a limb. Oil spouting from the end of his arm. Krillin was breathing heavily, plucking out a sensu bean from his vest, because naturally, he's the bean daddy on Earth. Ah yeah, I sensu bean myself! Also thanks to his flare-up and fluctuating energy levels, the rest of the gang had arrived to back him up. Are you alright, Krillin? Said Goku, looking concerned for his friend. I'm alright, buddy. I'm all beamed up and raring to go. Goku nodded with a smile, and then turned with a stern expression toward Gero. So, you must be Lapis then? Gero looked confused. No, I am Dr. Gero of the Red Ribbon Army, and you
must be Son Goku. I have waited a long time for this moment. To bring you down and avenge our fallen organization.
19 was cauterizing his wound as his master was saying this.
We are strong enough to handle your advances. I have calculated it myself. No matter what you may have in your arsenal, we are able to counter. You might as well give up now and accept your fate.
Krillin was unmoved. He's lying, Goku! I fought that clown over there just now, and I didn't even have to need to go Super Saiyan to give him trouble.
Super... what?
Said Gero.
Explain! Is that some sort of code? Do not hide things from me! Show whatever desperate move you may have to save your sorry hides.
The pair looked at each other. Well, doctor's orders. And so the pair of them powered up to Super Saiyan at the same time. The dust kicked up something fierce, and 19 scanners flew off the charts. These powers vastly exceeded their predicted maximums. Both Krillin and Goku were massively overpowered. But Gero was still unfazed, thinking this was, just some dying gasp, and instructed 19 to go forward anyway. Leave that one to me, Goku! I want the last laugh! Krillin then went full ham on 19, not holding back, keen to assert his dominance on the clown, for round 2. And within seconds, 19 was but a pile of scrap metal on the ground, and a head carrying a look of abject fear upon its visage. The group were impressed with the speed of his attack. That Lazuli had nothing to worry about here, clearly. They had it under control. However, Gero was now like a wounded tiger, prone to rash moves. With his eye beam, he frantically struck Goku in the torso before turning tail and running. They needed to take care of him. The beam had connected, but the Saiyan wasn't mortally wounded, but it hurt like a mother. Breathing heavily, Goku asked Krillin for a beam, to which he obliged because, once again, Beam Daddy. In the hubbub, Gero had been able to escape, but they knew where he was going. During the 4 years they had been training, Krillin and Bulma had hatched a plan, considering launching a surprise attack on Gero's North City base, based on her intel, trying to get the jump on him, as it were. However, 2 things halted their stealth mode maneuver. First, the notion coming from Lazuli's warning back in that time that Android 16 could be wheeled out prematurely and its corrupted programming or botched startup sequence may come to bear. For all they knew, their interference might have been the thing that sparked that temporal action in the first place, so yeah, they abandoned that idea. Second also, Krillin's Saiyan instincts made it so that he probably wouldn't have done it anyway, because he wanted to have a good fight at the end of it all. He didn't like it when his Saiyan mind did that sort of thing, but after that ordeal with 19, it had a point. Fighting felt very good. Just then, a familiar voice rang across the wasteland. Not bad, Short Stack. It was Lazuli. She had arrived to help out. In fact, she had been around a while, observing Krillin and 19's battle just now. Well, why didn't you come in and help me then? I could have used your help, said a rather annoyed Krill Dog. I would have done, but the sight of Gero froze me on the spot. Besides, if he saw me, he would have fled there and then, and probably done something rash. Good point, said Krillin. Logic was on her side. Well, we got no time to lose, said Ten Shinhan, keen to get things nipped in the bud as soon as possible. Yeah, said Yamcha. If Gero gets back to his lab and we're not there to stop him, he'll activate 16 in a state of panic. And you know what happens next. With that reminder, Lazuli and Krillin led the flight to North City Mountains and the lab of Dr. Gero. On the way, the 2 of them got talking. Lazuli impressed with Krillin's wily tactics and resourceful nature. Thanks! I learned a lot of that from before I became a Saiyan. Wait, I've been meaning to ask you, how did I die? The thought had occurred just then, to which Lazuli looked uncertain, not entirely sure whether to tell him or not, but she ultimately did so. In the future, you tried to take down 16 on your own. You went looking for him, thinking with your skill set, you could perhaps trick him, but you can't outwit what is essentially a computer with fists. He lured you into the city, where he knew you wouldn't be able to go all out for the risk of collateral damage or something. And there, when you didn't know it, he ripped your head clean from your shoulders. Krillin looked horrified, instinctively rubbing his neck. What? I know, barbaric. But 16 at that point had done far worse. To him, that was nothing. Let's hope this 16 is nowhere near as vicious, or better yet, never sees the light of day. Krillin could tell from this that Lazuli had seen copious amounts of death in her timeline, and was keen not to see any more here if she could help it. When they arrived at Gero's lab, Lazuli was able to unlock the door herself with her internal memory, possessing the security codes for Gero's base. She never thought it would once again come in handy here. This naturally surprised the Doctor when the door opened of its own volition, but what else surprised him was Lazuli's eyes staring back at them all. Instead of 16 being awoken, he had awoken Lapis and Lazuli, or better known in this timeline, 17 and 18. Gero had not chosen to activate 16, thankfully not resorting to that tactic in this version of events. 18 and Lazuli gazed upon one another, and the former spoke first. "What on earth is going on?" Her voice wavering with genuine confusion and slight fear. "Cool," said her brother, completely not fussed. "There's two of you. Where's the other me then? I didn't know we'd be duplicated." Lazuli smiled. It was nice to hear her brother's voice again, even if the mind behind that voice wasn't the same version. "No, Lapis, it's complicated. Don't stress out over it. Instead, I'd be more concerned about what that old kook over there has got in store for you." 17 looked to Gero. The old kook was seething and had in his hand a device which looked rather suspicious. 17 nabbed it from his grasp and crushed it. "Old man, stay out of this. Things just got a whole lot more interesting around here. And I don't need you gumming up the works, got it? Just be quiet, okay?" Gero naturally chose to do the opposite. "No such thing." And he paid the price for it. Be it on his now disembodied head. 17 and 18 then turned to face Goku. They had just spotted him. "Oh, neat. Look who it is, sis," said 17. "It's that guy the old man told us to kill. Should we do that?" 18 sized Goku up and then turned to her other self. "Nah, that's boring. I'm keen to find out more about myself." The pair walked forward so that they were staring at each other almost nose to nose. Piccolo was weighing up the situation.
"So, does this mean we stop things from happening in the future? Why is the future 18 still here?"
Lazuli thought the same thing, although she would have appreciated being called Lazuli instead of future 18. But again, the Namekian had a point. She had thought that if she stopped 16 from being released or awoken, things would change and she'd maybe disappear, reverting to a version of herself back in the future who had never come back in time in the first place, or maybe even never woken up at all. Something was preventing that from happening. "Clearly something's changed, but we're not done here." 18 smirked. "Does something else get in the way? Sis?" "Not sure. What are you planning on doing now?" "Whatever we feel like." Lazuli looked seriously at the pair of them. "Not if I have a say. I know how you operate. You can't just go about doing whatever you please. Things don't work like that in the real world. You have your freedom, but use it for a better purpose. Not the one that old coot had in mind for you. You're not drones. You're human beings first and foremost." 17 and 18 thought about this, but just as they were about to acquiesce and go along with the plan, a surge of light followed by shouting, "Big Bang Attack!" lit the room. The Dragon team had to duck out of the way at a second's notice to not get caught out themselves. The attack decimated the lab, and when the smoke cleared, Vegeta was in view, in Super Saiyan, looking triumphant.
"You should be thankful. Clearly you were all too scared to act. Not I."
The droids were furious. Had they been played? In that instance, they activated 16, keen for some extra assistance and retaliation. Krillin rounded on the prince. "What have you done? We had this under control!"
"It's not my fault you were standing around doing nothing. Somebody had to act."
Goku gave Vegeta a foul glare as 16 rose from his pod, but he didn't look all that menacing. That is until he saw Goku and promptly attacked, because
"I have to eliminate Son Goku."
And then the scene descended into utter bedlam. The Dragon team had to do their best to keep up, not wanting to destroy 17 and 18 yet, as they hadn't been the ones to unleash hell in the future. But they weren't exactly making a case for their safety or protection. In the distance, though, a bug was overseeing the whole thing. Chaos. Pure chaos. It loved that sort of thing. Everything looked like it was falling apart. And what was this? Not only were his siblings present, but another 18? A double serving a sister. I wonder what that would taste like. Licking its lips some more, cells skulked around the remains of Gero's lab. waiting for the right time to strike. Fortunately for the man insect, the group were tippy-toeing around the issue. They didn't want to spark 16 to a state of madness and hysteria like had been foretold. But despite its relentless push towards offing Goku, it did not exhibit any other act of randomness, no signs of lashing out on anybody else. It was just Goku. And it was a touchy spot that they were in too. And this played into Cell's hands even more. As 17, 18, Lazuli and Krillin were duking it out themselves, Cell surged forward with a solar flare courtesy of the hybrid. Krillin had just about enough time to cover his eyes, but in that split second, when he was distracted, Cell had jumped forward, knocking him over. He flexed his tail, opened its maw to its greatest extent, and swallowed all three robots at once. None of them had any idea of what had happened. 1 minute they were fighting, Cell's body transfigured itself into something that was beyond perfect. With two 18s in its database and core, this version of Cell looked even sleeker than the original, more refined than Perfect Cell ever got. Its blue eyes looked at the team, and a smile appeared on its face.
You absolute cretins! You had everything in the palm of your hands, and yet you still managed to botch it. I can't believe it was so easy.
Krillin was horrified. What are you? Cell looked willing to explain, since the odds were very much in their favor right now.
I am Cell. I am Dr. Gero's ultimate creation. A biomechanical marvel comprised of the creme de la creme that this puny planet has to offer. Krillin. All of your DNA resides within me. And thanks to my siblings' contributions, it has activated a change in me to fully realize my potential. But I must admit, even I didn't expect to have a second helping of my sister. This is remarkable. Now, who would like to have first dibs at trying me? Anyone?
Nobody said a word. Even 16 had ceased its onslaught against Goku, completely unaware of Cell's existence or presence prior. Was this an enemy? I mean, it had traces of Goku within it, but the full Goku was right here too. It therefore stood there and did nothing. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. If you'd like to see another story where Cell is different to what you are used to, check out this timeline here, where not only is Goku female, but Cell is too.